The story begins in a kindergarten where a teacher was teaching young children about the Bible. The man's phone starts beeping and he leans over to pick it up, but the beeping wasn't just a random notification. It was actually the timer of a bomb that goes off, causing a massive explosion that destroys the entire building, killing everyone inside. Spawn and Jessica Priest, aka She Spawn, attend the funeral, but they couldn't understand why the teacher did this. Spawn found something in the aftermath of the explosion, a sigil that links the shadow players to the killings. The sigil also says there's a list somewhere, files with names of every shadow player stuck on Earth, demons and angels hiding in human skin among us. He breaks inside the apartment of an archangel named Pete Raphael and a demon, Miss Leviathan. The two of them were having an affair, and he threatens to kill the demon if the archangel didn't decipher the sigil. The people involved are part of a terrorist group of some kind, following the Psalms 137 about killing youngsters to get their God to reveal himself. Raphael says the person leading this group is an angel named Metatron, and he is hiding in New York City. Metatron used to be a human, but he managed to get God's attention, who turned him into an angel. Spawn returns to the same streets where Malebolgia brought him back to Earth when he was resurrected. He finds the angel's hideout, but Metatron was already dead. His entire body was torn to pieces and scattered everywhere. Somewhere in another part of the city, in a dark and spooky basement, a group of people following the teachings of Psalms 137 were gathering and celebrating the killing of youngsters. Their leader claims that by doing this, their king will reveal himself to them, and they will punish him as he so richly deserves. All hail King Spawn. Their leader was none other than Billy Kincaid, a ruthless killer whom Spawn killed a long time ago. Kincaid claims that Metatron was weak, and he was guiding the followers much too slow. Under his leadership, he will convince Spawn to become one of them, making him kill youngsters just like them. Tensions were running high as Al tries to find the location of the group, but he had no leads. Jessica convinces him to give the sigil to Mark because he is an expert with computers and he might be able to decipher it further. Somewhere in Arlington, Virginia, a sweet old lady was returning home with groceries and wanted to check on her nephew, who was upstairs in his room. The nephew, however, wasn't alone. He was making love to his girlfriend, talking about Psalms 137, as both of them were members of the group. Mark was able to decode the sigil further, and he found that something big was going to happen tomorrow in Washington, D.C. Al meets his former best friend, Terry Fitzgerald, who gives him a list of the shadow players, proving that the government knows about their existence. The next day, near the steps of the Capitol building, a large group of people have gathered to protest. The young man and his girlfriend pull out 2 machine guns and threaten to shoot everyone in sight, including nearby youngsters. Spawn appears out of nowhere and gets in the way, using his cape to take the full brunt of the bullets. He wraps his chains around the 2 attackers, but the girl pulls her phone out, wanting to detonate it and cause another explosion. Spawn wraps his costume around her, swallowing her up completely and eating her soul. Both of them were now dead, but Spawn and Terry couldn't believe they were just children themselves, brainwashed by the religious group who were now under Billy Kincaid's leadership. Al and Terry used to work together for the agency. They've done this countless times before, putting photos on the wall, trying to connect predators to victims. Spawn took Terry's daughter and hid her somewhere, trying to protect her from the shadow players, fearing they might kill her. Her dad demands to know her location, and the 2 men get into a heated argument. Jessica interrupts them, saying she found something. 2 different attacks from Psalms 137 were happening at the same time, one in Uganda and one in Canada. They were using the same truck to move around, and Spawn realizes from the license plate that Billy Kincaid is the one behind these attacks. The team splits up, each going after separate targets, while Terry stays behind to coordinate everything on the radio. Spawn goes after Kincaid himself, and arrives at a big mansion protected by 2 bodyguards. He swiftly deals with them, showing no mercy for people who defend kid killers. He goes down the stairs towards the basement and sees Simon surrounded by Psalms 137 members. Simon is one of the kids who died in the first explosion, and his soul was now trapped by the cult, who were looking to make him their slave. Spawn unleashes his full wrath, going all out on the people and showing no mercy for these monsters. Meanwhile, in Uganda, Jessica was surrounded and needed backup, but medieval Spawn was busy in Canada dealing with more cultists. One of them detonates a grenade, creating a giant explosion and causing medieval to drop communications. After dealing with the members, Spawn is finally confronted with Kincaid, but something wasn't right. The last time they fought, he was just a human, but now, someone freed him from hell and made him a lot stronger. Kincaid slams the Hell Spawn and throws him around like a rag doll. However, Spawn is able to use the darkness to his advantage, and he quickly surrounds the kid killer, getting inside his body. He then teleports inside his body, exploding out of him and tearing his body into pieces. He then turns his attention towards Simon, wanting to help him, but someone grabs his chains. Kincaid was not dead. Instead, he recovers but was looking like a monster. His entire body was deformed and his organs were spilling out. He regenerates his body quickly and pins the Hell Spawn to the ground using his own chains. Kincaid claims he's seen the future, a future where Spawn drags others into the battle, where Terry is lifeless on a cross, a world where brothers are at war with brothers, and when it's done, Spawn emerges as the world's one true king, sitting on the throne while the world burns. But Simmons doesn't care about the future. He only cares about the enemy that is right in front of him. He goes all out and loses his temper, dealing deadly blows one after another. But the Kid Killer refuses to defend himself, as if he wants Spawn to unleash his fury. In the end, there is nothing left of him, only bones and flesh covered in blood. Spawn takes the boy and wants to leave, but they are confronted by the Oracle. The Oracle works for Gaia, the Earth Goddess of the Green, aka Mother Nature, and the creator of everything. She claims that Gaia is tired of this constant war between heaven and hell, and she is coming to Earth to exact judgment. She's done that several times before, and every time, she destroyed everything and everyone, and started over. The Oracle accuses Spawn of locking the dead zones and trapping demons and angels on Earth, alongside every soul who can't return to either hell or heaven. She offers to take the young boy with her, and Simmons agrees. He then goes to Uganda to help Spawn, who was being chased by armed guards. While desperately trying to keep some kids alive, medieval Spawn arrives as well, and together they end the attacks, leaving nothing but a bloodbath behind. They got a lead on Plague Spawn, who was rumored to be somewhere in Russia, but before going there, he wants to go to Botswana, the same country where he was killed by the agency. Believing that all of these attacks are connected to him and his origin story, many years ago when Al used to be a trained assassin working for the agency, he was sent on a mission in Botswana to find the head of an army using children as soldiers, then execute him. He arrived at the destination and pointed his gun towards the target, but he didn't expect to find a teenager. This kid had the mark, Psalms 137, written on his hand, and claimed he was working with Jason Wynn, Simmons' boss. That's when he realized that they were both used as pawns, and he abandoned his loyalty for the agency. Unfortunately, his bosses had been watching him for quite some time and gave the order to execute him. This moment is the exact second Al Simmons became Spawn. Though he has no memory of who shot him or why, we see a vision of Jessica Priest, aka She-Spawn, and his partner in the agency, burning his body and claiming the target has been eliminated. In the present, he and Terry go back to Botswana trying to find how Psalms 137, a low-level terrorist cell, got their hands on US military-grade weapons, and why their plans included him opening the dead zones. He goes back to the same place where he met the kid and sees something written on the wall. The king returned. Out of nowhere, someone attacks him from behind and blasts him with an energy beam. This person was also part of Psalms 137 and wanted Spawn to take the crown and open the doors so the servants can come and worship him. Spawn tries to fight back and attacks this mysterious person, but he was just too powerful and gets slammed on the ground. The attacker asks him to get up, claiming he taught him better than that, as if the two of them knew each other. Spawn attacks him using his chain and removes his mask, revealing that this person was actually his former boss, Jason Wynn. Wynn sold his soul to the devil a long time ago, and when Jim Downing killed him, his soul ended up in hell. He was tortured for failing to turn Spawn into one of Hell's top generals and turned into their slave. Eventually, he ended up in the same cell with Billy Kincaid, until one day, someone offered them a way out. They were offered a second chance at delivering King Spawn back to Hell, and the two men worked together to achieve their goal. While Kincaid focused on Psalms 137 and getting Spawn's attention by sacrificing children, Wynn rebuilt his entire body, creating special armor and renaming himself as Disruptor. Disruptor claims there's a small crack between Earth and Hell, but they still need Spawn to open the dead zones so more demons can pass through. He slams him on the ground a few more times, proving just how strong he's become, but during the altercation, he drops a piece of his armor and Terry picks it up. Terry attacks him, but he isn't strong enough, and Disruptor manages to get close enough to punch him in the face, breaking his jaw. This angers Spawn, who uses his chains to regain the advantage, but his former boss panics and triggers an explosion. Spawn survives, but he wants names of demons or angels who want to come to Earth. Wynn reminds him that if he and Kincaid made it through, so can Wanda, his former wife. Spawn wants him to suffer and takes out his eye using a sharp object, leaving him blind forever. He then fixes Terry's jaw, and the two of them leave for New York City, claiming the sigil is drawing him there. Meanwhile, in Billy Kincaid's home, a group of soldiers working for the Exodus Foundation arrived to retrieve what was left of him, which wasn't much. In another part of the world, the Shadow Forces were having a secret meeting after they successfully created a throne made out of bones from Spawn's enemies. calling it the God Throne. After a brutal battle with Jason Wynn in Botswana, Spawn has returned to the shadowed alleys of New York City. They are confronted with an onslaught of soldiers working for the Exodus Foundation, the group that was secretly funding the terrorist group, Psalms 137. Spawn notices that their emblem changed and was now just the number 11. Terry figures out that 11 is just the sum of all the other numbers combined. In biblical terms, the number 11 denotes chaos. 11 priests working together against Spawn from the shadows. They organized a protest in front of the Exodus building, trying to lure the Hellspawn there, but Demon Mammon isn't sure their plan is going to work. This pisses off their leader, the forgotten angel Azrael, who grabs him and makes him sit on the God Throne. Mammon's body begins to change as he screams in horror, affected by the pain from all the souls of the next world. Azrael accuses him of failing against Spawn many times in the past, but he only wanted to teach him a lesson. Spawn and Terry arrive at the building and see Wanda's car driving toward the crowd of people. What Jason Wynn said affected him, and he thinks it might really be her in the car. What if she managed to escape through the dead zones just like Billy Kincaid? 2 years ago, she was killed during a mob riot, but Spawn knows the shadow forces were behind her death, so they rush toward the car, thinking it might actually be her inside. They are stopped in their tracks by the angel Azrael and the court of priests, who claim they are the ones responsible for Wanda's death. They did it for the purpose of bringing Spawn to this exact moment, hoping he will soon ascend to become something greater, and rule not only this world but other worlds he doesn't even know about. Meanwhile, in Greenworld, the Oracle and Simon were watching everything unfold, when out of nowhere the Oracle attacks the young boy, trying to kill him. She is stopped by the voice of Gaia, who claims the boy is far more important than they initially anticipated, and she needs him alive at all costs. Simon escapes and runs into the forest, but comes across a giant monster who wants to help him. The monster offers to be his teacher, claiming the boy will one day become the Kingslayer. Jason Wynn says that bringing Wanda back is possible, but he can't do it in his current form. Spawn needs to accept their offer and become their king, ascending to a new plane of existence and becoming all-powerful. The court of priests attacks him in a desperate attempt to force him to accept their offer. Most of his former enemies are here. Tremor, who used to be a man, but was now mutated into a hideous beast. Zira, one of God's greatest angels who once led the Seraphim. And even Mammon, a former lord from hell. Azrael claims that thanks to Spawn, he saw how infallible heaven was really like, so he left paradise. He ripped one of his wings from his back, and the madness slowly began to overcome him. He claims that Spawn doesn't have true power but mostly rage, driven by his desire for vengeance. He could eventually gain true power and then lead them against heaven and hell. He wants him to sit on the throne and become a force none could ever fathom. Spawn is tired of hearing him speak and throws a lance toward the angel, but Azrael is able to destroy it with pure energy, with an impressive display of power. The 11th hour draws close, and when it passes, if he's still not decided to sit on the throne and become their king, they will unleash their wrath on Earth and kill everyone. Spawn thinks about it and eventually accepts, but he vows to use that power and kill all of them. The shadow players feel disrespected, saying he doesn't take this seriously and decide to leave, leaving him one final ultimatum. 2 years ago, after abandoning Paradise, Azrael came to Greenworld and demanded to speak to Gaia. He was carrying the body of a dead woman but was denied entrance to this beautiful paradise. As payback, he killed one of the creatures that was guarding this place, spilling its blood and poisoning the lands. In the present, the Heap, aka giant creature, continues to train Simon, vowing to help him become better and stronger as time goes on. He wants the boy to get close to fulfilling his destiny and become the Kingslayer. Spawn comes to Greenworld after being sent an invitation from Gaia herself. The place was now sick, poisoned when Azrael spilled the creature's blood. He is greeted by the Oracle, the Heap, and Simon. This place makes him weaker and the giant monster attacks him, but Simmons knows that the Sigil, Black Azrael, and the child are all connected. He grabs the Oracle by the throat and demands to see Gaia, claiming she wanted to speak to him. Eventually, Mother Nature shows herself, and Simmons wants to know where she is hiding Wanda's soul. Gaia says she hides many souls here, including the souls of children that hell and heaven couldn't save. In fact, she's hiding a better world, one that will shine when the wars between heaven and hell have played themselves out. Either side could have stopped this war at any time, but their egos won't let them stop. Simmons could have been a god, but his nature is far too cruel to hold that role. Suddenly, Simon attacks him, shooting him in the back with a powerful energy blast from his sword. After spending just a short time in Greenworld, Simon has gotten much older and was trained to become Spawn's killer. But he wasn't strong enough and Al kicks him to the ground, telling him he's been used, just like they tried using him all these years. Gaia restores his powers completely, curious to see what he would do. He directs his attacks toward the Oracle and the Heap, hitting them with necroplasm. Spawn tells the young boy to run away and get as far away from this place as possible, but Gaia demonstrates her incredible powers once again. She makes everyone disappear and makes Wanda appear, saying that Azrael stole her soul from heaven and brought it here 2 years ago. Gaia wants him to sit on the throne and become king, which would grant him godlike powers, allowing him to bring back Wanda from the dead. In return, Azrael promised that they would all leave Earth, leaving the planet to return back to its green state. She gives Spawn an ultimatum: sit on the throne and become king, or she destroys Wanda's soul forever. A strange man is walking along the busy streets of New York City. This man works as a janitor for the Exodus Foundation, the same organization that is run by Azrael and the Court of Priests. Terry attacks the janitor from behind and knocks him unconscious. He steals his clothes and his ID card because he wants to sneak inside the Foundation and find out what he can about Wanda. The night shift starts at midnight and the place is mostly empty at that hour. Nobody suspects a thing, and Terry makes his way to the elevator. He looked at the building's blueprints and knows about a secret level that is locked away. Inside, he hears the two demon brothers, Ab and Zab, bragging about the fact that, together with their mysterious boss, someone named the Shadow Man, they were able to teleport Jason Wynn and Kincaid from the locked dead zones. They also talk about Azrael's plan to take over the world, turning entire nations on each other. Terry loses his temper and attacks one of the demons, using the element of surprise to his advantage. However, the second one jumps from behind and then stabs him in the eyes with a knife. Luckily, he was wearing night vision goggles which shielded his eye, and he is able to knock both of them unconscious. He then walks inside a nearby room and finds Spawn sitting on the God Throne. He is afraid that Al might take the offer and use his new godlike powers to bring back Wanda, and he doesn't want that to happen. He points his gun toward him and threatens to kill him. Spawn is happy to see that he can count on him because he is either going to kill everyone connected to Wanda's death or he's going to want to claim the throne for himself. And if that happens, he wants Terry to find a way to kill him. After both of them leave, the Court of Priests has another meeting, discussing what happens after he takes the throne. Should they follow him as a king or kill him before he kills them? It's been 2 weeks since Spawn sat on the God Throne, but instead of choosing to take it and become a king, he chose to hunt down the ones responsible for Wanda's death, starting with Tremor. He finds him in the alleys and beats him to a pulp, but he needs him to deliver a message. What happened to him tonight will happen to the other members of the Court of Priests. Terry thought that by sitting on the throne, Al was going to be mind-controlled, but instead he used the throne to make himself stronger. Nonetheless, Terry knows what the throne is capable of and decides to sneak inside the building a second time, planning to destroy it forever. However, the throne shows him visions, showing him how Wanda returns and how Spawn will end the world. Two demons watched everything from the shadows, but they were instructed not to intervene and just observe. Next, Spawn goes after Zab, one of the demon brothers whose powers allow him to teleport back and forth from hell. He cuts off his fingers, mutilating him forever and taking away his ability to use magic. Azrael attacks him, but Spawn is now much stronger and accuses him of being blinded by hate, so he decides to make it official by taking one of his eyes out. Meanwhile, Terry wakes up from his visions and continues his plan to destroy the throne. He covers it with C4 explosives and then detonates the explosives, causing a massive explosion that takes out the entire floor of the building. The explosion was devastating, but somehow Terry survives and he slowly regains consciousness. However, he is shocked to see that the God Throne had survived as well. It's merely a vessel of corrupted energy, and you can't destroy energy, you can only convert it into something else. In this case, a crown waiting for its king. Azrael thought somehow his outcome would be different, but murdering innocent children, freeing Kincaid and Jason Wynn, is something that Spawn can't forget. Godsend comes to his rescue, attacking Simmons from behind and diving 10 stories into the ground below. As punishment, Spawn breaks off one of his wings and prepares to do the same thing to the second one, but Azrael recovers and shoots him from behind. He brought Zab as backup, but with his broken hand, he isn't able to use his magic. The Black Angel summons a snake from his broken eye, which attacks the Hellspawn, pinning him to the ground. Spawn is tired of hearing the word king. He knows they don't really want him to become their king. Instead, they just want to control him and slowly strip away his powers for themselves. He sneaks up behind Zab and grabs his broken hand, linking his necro power to the demon's magic, creating a slight sliver that sucks Azrael through it. The Black Angel was teleported to heaven, a place where he is known by everyone and considered a traitor, an outcast, and his judgment will be plentiful. Disruptor, aka Jason Wynn, and Marana confront Terry and ask him to hand over the crown, but he claims he had a dream. In his dream, the number 137 turns into 11, and then 11 became 2, a vision of the future where Spawn and Wanda become rulers of everything, but they are cruel. willing to kill everyone who stands in their way, including Wanda's own children. Spawn appears as well and demands they hand over the crown, or they will suffer the same fate as Azrael. Ever since the dawn of time, both heaven and hell have used the dead zones to place their soldiers on Earth whenever they wanted. The court of priest warriors sacrificed themselves, hoping that they would control him and get him to open them, but they failed. Since Azrael was banished to heaven, Spawn wants Disruptor to go to Greenworld and negotiate for the soul of his ex-wife, Wanda. Since becoming Spawn, both heaven and hell have tried to control him, but in fact, he was the one controlling them, moving the pieces like pawns on a chessboard. Somewhere else, a dark and evil creature named Ordeal was wandering the woods looking for victims to fill them with shocks of horror that would haunt them forever. He hears the voice of Comox the hero, a godlike beast who has bonded with a young child. Ordeal is confused and doesn't understand why the kid is not afraid, when out of nowhere, he is attacked from behind by Comox, the child's protector. The two of them were connected and every injury sustained by the protector is replicated on the boy's body and vice versa. The fighting is interrupted by a mysterious shadow, a strange voice claiming he brought them here to talk about King Spawn. Back in New York City, Spawn is confronted by Raven Spawn, a Death Knight from Malebolgia's southernmost army. He warns Spawn that by taking the mantle of hell, it'll corrupt him, forcing him to destroy everything, and he won't be strong enough to resist it. None of them are strong enough. If he opens the dead zones, angels, demons, and other hell spawns are all coming for him, demanding retribution, but he isn't afraid. He's made up his mind. He wants to bring back Wanda from the dead and won't stop at nothing. Raven Spawn calls him a pawn in a bigger game, saying there is an even bigger king pulling the strings but doesn't want to say who. He transforms his body into tiny crows and flies away, hailing King Spawn as he escapes. The strange figure from the forest was none other than the Violator, who uses his clown form to hide his true form. Ordeal tells the young boy he is a vessel sworn to deliver misery from his master called Nightmare. His body contains secrets and powers others can only utter in their dreams. Jealousy, blasphemy, sin. He can grow any of these, manifest them, and make them seem so real for his victims. One such victim is Terry Fitzgerald, who is overwhelmed with anxiety and paranoia after he stood against Spawn when he tried to destroy the God Throne. He thinks that Spawn is looking for him, wanting to kill him, so he calls someone and asks for help. Ordeal then takes them into Spawn's mind, showing them what will happen if Spawn becomes the king of hell. There's going to be no one left to reason with him. He's going to rule the throne like a tyrant, bent on destroying both heaven and hell. Somehow, Raven Spawn enters Spawn's mind as well, and claims he is fighting to contain the chaos that's exploded everywhere thanks to Simmons. The boy was chosen for a greater mission, just like Kingslayer, the boy from Greenworld, but only if he can figure out who's really the king. Spawn realizes they are messing with his mind and attacks them, but Raven is able to use his magic and take them out, just barely escaping before being trapped inside forever. However, the clown doesn't like him interfering, calling him a failure who doesn't have what it takes to fight for the throne of hell. Spawn was able to track their location and teleported there, watching and listening to how they were plotting against him. The remaining members of the Court of Priests were now working for him, and Disruptor was able to negotiate for Wanda's body. The only thing missing now is her soul, which is hidden behind one of the dead zones. Spawn wants to know who is really controlling this new group that's been plotting against him, and once he figures it out, he's going to destroy them. The clown comes face to face with Spawn and says they are all pawns on a bigger chessboard. The game is nearly over, and Spawn is running out of moves. If he does nothing, he'll never see Wanda ever again, but if he does, the clown will make sure to destroy both of them when he sees her. He claims his true form is much more powerful than he used to be, but he doesn't want to show himself until the moment is right. An epic clash erupts between the two groups. Morana attacks Ordeal and they jump at each other's throats. Comox the hero has incredible brute force and he slams her against Godsend, knocking them both unconscious on the ground. Raven Spawn attacks Disruptor, unleashing hundreds of crows to do his bidding, but the former CIA agent uses his body armor to electrocute all of them. All of this was just a distraction while the clown sneaks through the forest using the shadows. Spawn eventually finds him, but they are both teleported to New York, but the city is under attack by Psalm 137 zealots. Terry is on the streets using his experience to take out as many of them as he can, when suddenly, the Redeemer appears in the sky, demanding to know who's behind the attack. Spawn arrives and asks for his help in stopping the zealots, promising to talk about what's going on once everyone is safe. Heaven's and Hell's warriors join forces and easily take out the zealots, stopping the attack in just a few moments. Simmons wants to leave and find others important in his mission, but the Redeemer stops him, claiming that he's seen the future, and if he leaves now, the other side wins and he'll never recover from this. But no one is going to stop Spawn from doing what he wants, and he teleports away while the clown laughs maniacally, claiming the king has fallen. There are many players on the chessboard, all wanting a piece of Spawn, but he isn't afraid and welcomes all of it with open arms. He took the court of priests to one of the dead zones, where he made a small crack, allowing them to pass through. As their new king, he wants them to go into hell and retrieve the soul of his ex-wife, and in exchange, he offers them the throne of hell. However, this is a suicide mission, and Godsend is the first to fall, getting snatched and dragged inside hell by one of the demons. Spawn leaves them to accomplish his mission and then goes to see Terry. He promises he didn't come there to kill him. Instead, he reminds him of a mission they did together in Colombia many years ago. They were supposed to fight a drug cartel, but instead, Al chose to play sides because it was the only way they could survive. He claims the vision Terry saw of him killing everyone to get to Wanda is real, but he is risking the lives of his enemies, whom he sent into hell to find Wanda. The two of them agree to work together once again and spend the entire night drinking beers. Meanwhile, in hell, Disruptor is desperately looking for Wanda, but runs into Brimstone, a powerful demon. He tells the demon everything, and he was extremely curious to know how a human was able to gain so much power and become a king. Brimstone is a being of immense power who built a small army with only one mission in mind, to invade Earth. He wants the court of priests to kneel in front of him, but they refuse, so he attacks them. He easily takes out Morana with his sentient weapon and then decapitates Godsend. Left without a choice, Disruptor kneels in front of this great demon and tells him the entire history of Spawn and the Dead Zones. Brimstone agrees to help them find Wanda, realizing that's the only way to get out of hell and invade Earth. Al brings Terry to an abandoned building that belongs to the Psalm 137. Killing an entire group of kindergarten children wasn't enough for these lunatics. They also had to go after their family members. The two men are shocked to find so many bodies hanging from the ceiling, and Al says they should split up. While moving through the dark corridors, Terry is knocked unconscious by a mysterious figure lurking in the shadows. Spawn is attacked as well by a giant monster who calls himself Behemoth. This monster was created by the Zealots using dark magic and DNA from the remains of Billy Kincaid after Spawn killed him. Simmons unleashes his rage, calling the monster a kid killer, going all out and breaking his hand. However, the beast was not defeated and claims it's more superior to him and wants to prove it. He takes a steel girder from the ground and sticks it in his broken arm. He then attacks Spawn with a powerful hit which sends him to the ground. The Hellspawn is even more enraged and gets up, but before he can retaliate, the giant monster disappears and the room transforms into the abandoned warehouse from before. He quickly notices he wasn't alone. Oracle was there together with Simon, aka the Kingslayer, the boy whose body was vaporized in the school bombing. He led Oracle to this place, sensing his mother was in danger, hoping to help her, but instead, he only found her dead remains. The Oracle wants Spawn to help them find the dead mother's spirit, who is now trapped somewhere in hell. He refuses and blames her for everything that happened, saying they didn't allow him to search for Wanda's body in the green. The Kingslayer attacks Spawn, blaming him for his mother's death, but he easily dismisses him, saying he's not strong enough, but maybe one day he'll be. After they leave, Al goes searching for Terry, but he was missing, probably kidnapped by Psalm 137 members. He wakes up Mark Rosen and asks him to check the security cameras that were pointed towards the exit. Terry was kidnapped by a man named Jericho, a businessman and mercenary working for the highest bidder. Mark tracks the number plate and follows the car, giving Spawn directions on where to go. Jericho says they hired him to kidnap Terry because they need him as a bargaining chip against Spawn. He is just a pawn, nothing more. Terry's dealt with threats his whole life, and he is a tough son of a bitch. He kicks the car into parking mode and causes them to crash. He then kicks the driver in the face and knocks him unconscious, but Jericho was still alive. The mercenary decides he doesn't need the bargaining chip and wants to end him, but Terry puts up a good fight and defends himself using a piece of glass. However, he didn't have to fight for too long because eventually Spawn finds them. Al opens a portal and sends Jericho into the depths of the Netherworld. He then claims that if they want him to become their king so bad, he's gonna do it, but he's gonna be the most vicious king they've ever seen. On Christmas Eve, a strange man with blue hair, carrying a freezer, was walking the snowy streets of New York City. A young girl was eager to meet Santa Claus and runs into him, knocking the freezer from his hands. However, something unexpected falls out. He was carrying a person's brain, and quickly tries to pick it back up before it gets spoiled. The bystanders call the police, and detectives Burke and Twitch were sent to investigate. A nearby homeless man gives them a business card to the Exodus Foundation, saying that one of their labs is collecting brains for research once you're dead. They quickly go to check it out, but the old man in charge says that everything they do is perfectly legal. Paying someone money to donate their brains isn't against the law. The old man was particularly interested in Burke's brain, saying he looks like a Neanderthal and he wants to look inside. Eventually, they find the man on the streets with the brain inside the freezer, but he was already killed by someone. 24 hours earlier, the punk was hiding inside an abandoned building. The accident earlier attracted too much attention, something that might get him killed in this line of work. He got the brain earlier by murdering a college professor in cold blood and extracting his brain. Spawn finds and confronts him, demanding to know the names of the people he was working for. When he refused to talk, Spawn killed him by dismembering him, just like he was doing to others. The story jumps to a strange man named Bateman Merrival, who was desperately trying to dodge a bunch of police cars that were following him. He was talking to his sister, Tar Merrival, who was waiting for him together with his date. The brother and sister are part of the family which runs the Exodus Foundation, and Bateman is carrying canisters of brain material in his car. Spawn jumps on top of his car and stops him dead in his tracks, causing a massive crash. The man tries to get away and drops something, a photo that catches Al's attention, giving the man his only chance to escape. Somewhere else, detectives Burke and Twitch were trying to solve the murder of the punk who stole people's brains and see if there's any connection linking him to the Exodus Foundation. Terry is trying to help, claiming he can arrange a meeting with Spawn, but warns them that he doesn't care about anyone else but himself. Spawn appears out of nowhere and gives him the photo he found earlier, saying he needs to see this. It was a picture of Terry's daughter, and he panics, thinking the Foundation might have found her, or even worse, already killed her. Spawn tracks the man that he was following earlier and sees him entering a restaurant. The two detectives wait outside, while Terry goes inside to see what was going on. Even though his mission was just to ID the people in the restaurant and get out, Terry decides to change the plan. He pulls a gun and threatens Bateman, but he wasn't alone. He was having dinner with his own daughter. Terry and his daughter go back to the hotel to talk about what just happened, but she is angry at him and starts shouting. Meanwhile, Spawn finds a giant vault belonging to the Exodus Foundation, but instead of finding money, he finds thousands of perfectly preserved brains. Two guard dogs get close, wanting to sink their teeth into his hellish flesh. Spawn doesn't want to kill them. Instead, he feeds them 2 brains while he continues his investigation unbothered. The 2 detectives were listening to Terry and his daughter fighting, but when they go inside, they find Cyan using her powers to levitate her father. They show her pictures of the victims affected by the Foundation, trying to calm her down and saying they are killers. She met Bateman Merrival while she was in Rwanda, hiding from the Shadow Forces and her father, but she had no idea what they were capable of. After a few drinks at the bar, Sam decides to go home, but is ambushed by Madeleine, a woman working for the Exodus Foundation, who threatens to cut his brains out. Her brother jumps him and immediately injects him with something to calm him down. He wakes up in the car and Bateman threatens him, saying they wanted Cyan for her powers, but now they screwed up their plans, so he wants to make him pay. They bring him back to the Exodus building, but Spawn was waiting for them and he was angrier than ever. He throws a couple of brains towards them, triggering the dogs to attack them in a frenzy. Whatever was injected in the brains to keep them healthy makes the animals ravenous. Somehow Madeleine escapes, leaving Bateman to be eaten alive by the pack of dogs, but Sam grabs his gun and shoots her in the leg. Spawn threatens her, demanding to know everything that they are doing in this warehouse and why they need so many brains. After spending nearly 12 hours talking, the father and daughter are exhausted. Unpacking so much emotional trauma takes a toll on them. They hear noises in the corridor and go outside to see what was happening, but they find Tar Merrival, the daughter of Alistair Merrival, aka the head of the Exodus Foundation. Tar had powers of her own, and she manages to incapacitate Cyan before she gets a chance to do anything. She didn't come here alone. She brought Behemoth, the giant monster that Terry and Spawn fought earlier. Back at the warehouse, the 3 people go down the stairs inside a creepy laboratory, where they find body parts from thousands of victims who were dismembered for their brains. The Foundation wants to build a data-linked storage of information built from the victim's DNA, but the entire thing is gruesome and causes Spawn to lose his temper. They weren't the only ones inside this lab. Yoko, one of Cyan's friends from when she was in Japan, who was presumed dead, was trapped here and exploited for her psychic powers. Spawn thought that she was killed in an unfortunate car crash, but she lived and was brought here by the Foundation. They fed her the brains of thousands of people, which enhanced her powers, and now the ghosts of all those dead people live inside her. She blames Spawn for what happened to her, for abandoning her in Japan. The ghosts she devoured form into a single union, then shatter themselves and attack his body, burrowing deep inside his flesh. Al drops on the ground, overwhelmed with pain, while Sam sends a message to Twitch, alerting him of their location. Tar was successful in kidnapping Cyan, but luckily Terry managed to get away and finds Twitch, who was searching for Sam. Together they head toward the warehouse, believing that Cyan and everyone else might be taken there. Sam jumps in to protect Spawn and shoots Yoko multiple times using his pistol, and she falls back to the chair unconscious. This causes the ghost to turn on him, and Spawn is still on the ground recovering from his attack. After just a few moments, Yoko recovers unharmed and decides to give the detective a lesson. She shows him a vision of when he was just a little boy, when his father used to beat him a lot, and he was helpless to defend himself. Yoko grabs his belt and does the same thing, reminding him of how weak he used to be and how he failed to protect himself and his mother. Out of nowhere, the head of the Foundation arrives, Alistair Merivale himself, together with his daughter and the hulking monster. He brags that he was the one who freed Billy Kincaid and Jason Wynn from hell, and also the one who rescued Yoko and brought her here. Twitch and Terry eventually arrive and witness everything that was going on inside and decide to make their move. The warehouse erupts into a war frenzy, with Spawn attacking Merivale and throwing him against the wall, but he gets careless and Tar uses this opportunity to give him the kiss of death. Yoko sees Cyan on the ground and gets close, remembering her face from their time spent together in Japan. This triggers a bunch of memories. She remembers what really happened to her, how she was killed, and how Cyan avenged her death by punishing the ones responsible. Tar's powers severely weakened Spawn, which left him vulnerable to an attack from the behemoth. Twitch and Terry decide to join the fight and come in guns blazing. The detective goes straight for Tar, while Terry rushes to see if his daughter is still alive. Spawn uses the shadows to recover his powers, and returns filled with rage. He goes all out on the behemoth and stabs it in the abdomen. He then throws it against his attackers. Yoko remembers what it feels like to be human again, and decides to attack Tar, using the ghosts inside her body to take her down. The fighting comes to a sudden halt, and the only one left standing is Alistair Merivale. Spawn lets him go, claiming he plans to hunt him later and that he'll lead him straight to the rest of their pack. However, the old man doesn't manage to get too far, because someone attacks him and beheads him. Someone was watching the events unfold from the shadows, none other than the clown himself. He wants Spawn to say goodbye to his friends because where they're going none of them can follow. The clown claims he came here to ask for help, but Spawn doesn't say anything. Instead, he just stares back in silence. Every second they're wasting on Earth, Cogliostro's another step closer to Hell's throne. He wants them to send his friends away and work together to stop him. If not, he's going to hurt them. The clown gives a demonstration of his new powers and covers everyone in a cocoon of ionic shockwaves, paralyzing each of them and causing immense pain. He then focuses his attention on Yoko, increasing her vibrational frequency until she can't take it anymore and explodes. Seeing how powerful he's become, Spawn tells his friends to leave before it's too late. Cyan doesn't want to live, especially after her friend was just killed. But Terry says he wants to go after some people who are helping the clown and needs her help. Now just the two of them, Spawn attacks the clown with everything he's got, but it's not enough. The demon is the one who created the symbiote, together with Cog's help, and he can also control it, turning it against its own host, Al Simmons. Like some ancient mummy, Spawn's body is tightly wrapped by his cape, then reinforced by his own chains, while the clown slams him against the wall. But the cape is empty. Al had managed to teleport behind the clown and attacks him. He goes all out on the demon, accusing him of killing his ex-wife, trying to make him feel the pain that she must have felt when she died. If Spawn helps him get the throne of Hell before Cog, he vows to leave Earth alone, at least for several decades, until he deals with other enemies who don't live on this planet. But Spawn refuses once again, saying he doesn't owe him anything and prefers to just walk away back into the shadows. Spawn is tired of waiting for others to make a move on him, so the next day, he arms himself to the teeth and goes on a hunt. He breaks inside a warehouse searching for his enemies, but he finds no one. The place was completely abandoned. Next, he goes inside a dance club, leaving a trail of bodies behind. His own personal message that he's coming for them. He finds the club owner and interrogates him, demanding to know where Visage was hiding. He continues searching the city, leaving his mark everywhere he goes. Demons, angels, vampires, none were spared tonight. By the second night, they were all running scared, while some were convinced they only needed to go deeper into the shadows for protection, forgetting that Spawn thrives in the darkness. He uses the shadows and travels all the way to London, arriving at an abandoned warehouse. Inside, he finds an old lady. He had finally found the person he was after, Visage. This place is a dead zone, and it completely negates his powers. Luckily, he was armed to the teeth. Visage claims she is working for a higher power, one that lives outside Earth and who doesn't care about the war between heaven and Earth. Spawn wants her help. He wants to find a shortcut to cut off Cogliostro before he grabs the throne of Hell and offers her gifts, aka tokens, taken from his enemies. Visage senses how much Spawn has truly suffered and sees the kind of man he truly is. Her side doesn't want to get involved, but she gives him something, a gift that will take him to Hell, the dark side of it. But once he's there, he's on his own, and there is no way of bringing him back. As Spawn begins his descent into Hell, His entire life flashes before his eyes, and he wants to know why hell chose him out of millions of people to become a hellspawn. He knows he had a rage inside him from a young age, a rage his father taught him on a constant basis. He thought that by joining the army it was his way out, but instead his anger flourished. However, one day he met the love of his life, and for a while it worked, but eventually she saw his true face and he turned violent even with her. He saw his father do this to his mother while growing up, until he couldn't bear to watch it anymore, so he left. They killed Wanda because they wanted to control him, and knew that by taking her there would be nothing left but rage. Eventually, his journey ends, and he arrives in Hell's 5th level. But he wasn't alone. He is quickly surrounded by tentacles, and a demon appears in front of him. The demon is curious about him, saying he hasn't seen a hellspawn in eons, ever since they were banned from this level. Spawn wants help in getting to level 3, where the throne of hell resides, but the journey isn't going to be easy. The monster makes a grave mistake and gets a bit too close, and Spawn takes the chance and blinds it. He then attacks and kills it, determined to show everyone residing here that he is a monster just like them, and they shouldn't mess with him. He then wraps his chains around the giant beast and drags it through the pits of hell, making his way towards the throne. He walks through a swamp and is attacked by the cleansing bush, a creature that loves to devour necroplasm. It wraps itself around him, making it almost impossible to move forward, but Spawn lets it feed on the creature he killed earlier, allowing him to escape and continue with his journey. He is confronted by another demon. This one accuses him of killing a field lord and breaking the laws, so he must be punished. Just like the previous one, this demon also makes the mistake of getting too close, so Spawn pins him to the ground and then bites his neck. Even though hellspawns are part human, they are also part vampire, and they like to feed too. He continues his journey, this time dragging 2 demons with his chains, while his message echoes even harder: don't mess with Spawn. After walking for a few more hours, he is greeted by an army of demons. Upon seeing their leader dead at the hands of Spawn, and also the carcass of a field lord, they are scared, and he is allowed to cross unharmed. Soon he arrives at the River of Souls, who warn him to turn back and abandon his quest, claiming they've all failed before him. He ignores them and climbs a giant mountain filled with razor-sharp terrain. Hell wasn't going to make it easy for him. He is confronted by a giant monster, one that the field lord had warned him about, just moments before Spawn ended him. Luckily, he came prepared. He's been dragging the 6-ton carcass behind with only one purpose: to feed it to the giant monster. The monster begins eating and completely ignores the hellspawn, allowing him to walk free, slowly marching towards the throne. Even though this was supposed to be a shortcut to the throne of hell, instead it's done everything to try and slow him down. Spawn's been fighting all kinds of demons ever since he got here, but now, even the costume turns on him. But just like with any species, he has to show the symbiote who the alpha is. He continues his journey, and even though hellspawns don't need sleep, he'd like to stop and rest for just a minute. But the minute is all it takes for the ground itself to attack him and swallow him alive. He wants to give up and just accept his fate, but he fights back and escapes. Al realizes that all the creatures and demons of this place are attracted to his glowing green eyes, so he covers his eyes and continues the journey blindfolded. A giant demon wolf has been following him for hours and decides to make its move, but the insects jump to his rescue. Many other factions have waited centuries for a savior to come, willing to stand up to the ruling powers here, so they do everything possible to keep him alive. A swarm of bats comes flying down, wanting to help him, but Spawn panics, thinking he is under attack, and falls over the edge. He descends nearly a quarter mile, slamming against the cliffside dozens of times, until he finally hits the ground. As he lays on the ground unconscious, a mysterious figure approaches him. It was Wanda, his ex-wife, who picks him up and carries him to safety. Even though hellspawns weigh over 600 pounds, Wanda effortlessly lifts him up and walks towards the throne of hell. After walking for several days, she gets tired and stops to get some sleep, even though she was afraid of letting herself be exposed in this place. But luckily, Spawn eventually recovers, and he takes over the watch, keeping guard while she sleeps. Al doesn't know if the person sleeping next to him is really Wanda, or if it's just another one of Hell's tricks. He feels something. His body begins to hurt, as if someone is using it to get to him, but that can only mean they are afraid of him. Wanda eventually wakes up, and he tells her he came to Hell to accomplish a mission, and he's the only one who can do it. He tells her about the clown, how he's the one who killed her to get to him, and he's become much stronger ever since he separated from the Violator demon. She wonders who is keeping Earth safe while he's down here, but Al has other people he trusts, even though they might not be as strong as him. He is curious if she still loves him, and she does, but not the same way he loves her. They've had their moment, but that's long past now. His job now isn't to keep her safe anymore, but instead, he needs to watch over her children. He warns her about Cogliostro, who's become incredibly strong, and if he doesn't stop him from taking the throne of hell, he's going to invade Earth. Wanda warns him that he can't be the one to do it, because it will corrupt him, making him just as evil as his predecessors. Wanda's become something else. She's a goddess now, who came here to guide him and help him escape this realm. If this is going to be their last act, at least it will be together. It's been nearly a month since angels and demons have lost their powers, and some of them were desperately trying to assert themselves, while others were just trying to lay low and blend in. Spawn ambushes a man named Jimmy, who used to be a demon but is now just a regular human. He takes him to an abandoned warehouse and interrogates, demanding to know what happened to Grandma Blake. The man is reluctant to talk, so Spawn uses a knife to slit his throat just a little bit. He then throws him inside a cell, where he's been keeping a vampire who hadn't eaten anything in over a week. Elsewhere, 1 week earlier, a secret meeting was taking place between the Shadow players. One of the other factions, led by Kruger, was making a move on them, so they decide to have him eliminated. They want to use Spawn to take him out, and the boss knows just the way to do it. Grandma Blake goes shopping with one of her caretakers, but something was off. This new girl, Tina, has other plans in mind, and after attending church, she drives the old lady to a remote part of the city, where Jimmy and another man were waiting. She was working for them, and the two men kidnapped Grandma Blake. In the present, Spawn is successful in interrogating Jimmy, who tells him everything, including the location of Mrs. Blake. But instead of letting him go, Spawn gives him a wooden stick and asks him to fight his way out if he wants to stay alive. Sadly for him, the vampire was not an ordinary vampire, and stabbing him through the heart was not enough to kill him. Terry Fitzgerald gets ready to attend a party and puts on one of his best suits. His twin children, Jake and Katie, are unhappy because he has to leave. They don't like when he abandons them with the babysitter. He and his friend arrive at the dinner party, but as he goes to get a drink, something is wrong. One of the guests puts on a mask and shoots someone, then he blows his own brains out. The person he shot was Terry himself, who now lays unconscious on the ground in a puddle of his own blood. Spawn was still searching for Grandma Blake, who was kidnapped by the Shadow forces, but one of the demons he interrogated sent him on a wild goose chase. He interrogates his partner this time, claiming he's gonna let the vampire eat him alive if he lies to him, just like his partner did. The man is reluctant to say anything, claiming they are not afraid of him ever since he lost his powers and became mortal. But Spawn doesn't need powers to end him, and he pokes out his eyes to prove his point. The man eventually caves in and tells him that Mrs. Blake is held up at the dock. Unfortunately, this was just another wild goose chase because the docks were empty and there was no sign of Grandma Blake. The Shadow forces are the ones who planned Terry's attack, but they didn't want to kill him. They just wanted to point the blame at one of their enemies from Europe, Mr. Kruger. Spawn goes on a hunt searching for Terry's attackers, looking over CCTV footage from the dinner party, and sees that the shooter was bearing a strange tattoo. He arms himself to the teeth, but his search leads him nowhere. Instead, he finds a pile of dead bodies stacked on top of each other somewhere in a dark alley. Spawn eventually travels to Berlin and finds Kruger, and after interrogating him for information, he blows the entire building to pieces. But getting to him wasn't easy. He had to fight off hordes of bodyguards who weren't ready for him. 10 minutes earlier, Al walks inside the office and finds Kruger sitting unbothered, drinking some wine. He pulls out his pliers and wants to pull out his fangs, but Kruger says he's not a vampire, though Spawn already knew this. 12 minutes earlier, he was attacked by a vampire who jumped at his throat. Unfortunately, Al came prepared and he electrocutes the vampire using a shock collar, which he had wrapped around his neck. 14 minutes earlier, Spawn was being shot from every direction by Kruger's bodyguards, but he wasn't afraid and met them head-on. Close quarters are his sweet spot. This is where his military training comes in handy, the places where he excelled over everyone else. 17 minutes earlier, Spawn arrives in front of Kruger's building, but he thought the front would be better armed than this. It was easy for him, going inside and blasting everything in sight using his machine gun. 2 days earlier, everyone he's ever interrogated pointed fingers at Kruger, accusing him of being the one responsible for Terry's shooting and Grandma Blake's kidnapping. That's what determined him to take the next flight to Berlin in the first place. But Kruger wasn't the one involved with Granny or Terry's shooting. It was an angel faction who wanted him gone. Al meets with Cyan and tells her to keep an eye on her father because the Shadow players shot him in order to draw him out and end him. In the meantime, he's gonna keep looking for Grandma Blake, who's still missing. The angel faction are happy with the outcome. With Kruger out of the way, it's one less enemy they have to deal with. Their next concern is with the vampire lord, Blood, but for now, they will stay out of his way. Granny was kept inside an abandoned apartment building, but she wasn't feeling too good, coughing all the time. She asks her kidnappers to bring her some medicine, but they refuse, claiming they are not her babysitter. Spawn breaks inside and threatens one of the kidnappers, but he gets caught off guard and gets punched in the face. 12 minutes later, after dealing with the bodyguard, He goes up the stairs where a larger group of men were waiting. He smashes the front door and goes all out, using one of them as a body shield while quickly taking out the rest using his gun. These people kidnapped an old lady and kept her away from her family. They deserve to get killed, and Spawn shows no mercy. Eventually, he finds Granny and gives her a big hug, claiming that God sent her because she is much too important for him. Spawn brings her to a safe house and apologizes for everything that happened to her, but it's not his fault. Those men that kept her hostage have blackness in their hearts. He lets her rest and goes outside where two men were waiting for him. They are instructed to stand outside the door and keep her safe at all costs. Next, he meets with a vampire named Jester and offers him a deal. In exchange for keeping Grandma Blake safe, Spawn agrees to hunt down one of his angel enemies and bring him his head. Jester agrees and vows to prevent any angel from getting close to the old lady. He finds two angels who were dealing drugs in the dark and dirty alleys of New York City. He cuts off both their hands and interrogates one of them, threatening to do the same to his legs if he refuses to answer his questions. But things take a dark turn when more angels join the fight, who, even though have lost their powers, still embrace their ordained orders to eradicate every damn hellspawn they encounter. They come at him from every direction, and without his powers, Spawn is barely able to fight them off. He gets stabbed in the back, but he uses their weapons to kill one of them while he gets kicked in the face with a giant hammer. Somehow he is victorious and kills off most of his attackers, but when he tries to get away, he is confronted by another warrior who says he looks out of breath. Elsewhere, a man named Jeremy Stratton is working on his invention, trying to find solutions to the problems of his own making. Out of nowhere, Spawn walks through the door, badly injured and claiming he needs his help badly. Jacob was never athletic. In fact, he was pretty much a dork his entire life. He used to isolate himself in his room for days, reading and learning about everything he could get his hands on. Eventually, he got pretty good with technology. He is able to build pretty much anything, which earned him the nickname, the Tinkerer. After his mission in Berlin, Spawn was badly injured and needed someone he could trust. That person is Jacob. Even though he isn't a doctor, he takes out a couple of needles and sews Al's wounds, preventing him from bleeding to death. His back had it the worst, but luckily getting yourself drunk helps with easing the pain. To finish things off, Jacob uses a torch to cauterize his wounds, but Spawn was tough and he dealt with the pain like a real soldier. Meanwhile, Blood, the vampire lord, isn't happy that Spawn killed one of his associates in Berlin, along with many of their top soldiers. He captured one of his angel enemies and blames him for telling Spawn about the Berlin Alliance. As punishment, he throws him off the top of the building. A couple of hours after the operations, Jacob created a special armor for Spawn, one that enhances his strength and speed, something to help him against his enemies. Al barely escaped the mission in Berlin and knows he can't keep this up much longer, so he decides to get help from an old friend. Later, he sneaks inside a secret angel hideout and attacks an angel named Tyrone. Tyrone's dad is the leader of this rogue angel group, and he is the one who kidnapped Grandma Blake, and the one responsible for sending Spawn to Berlin to deal with his vampire enemies. He wants to kidnap and use him as a bargaining chip against his dad, but Tyrone is confident he's not going to get out of there alive. Spawn asks him to trigger the alarm, wanting to send a message by dealing with the guards and kidnapping the boss's son, but he wasn't planning on doing this alone. This time he brought Cygor, the android gorilla, who used to be his ally, who doesn't need powers to do some real damage. It's been over 1 year since Spawn resurrected the enraged ape, and he was now grateful and completely loyal to his master. The angels shoot Cygor with an arrow. They should have known better than to instigate a creature who was already sitting on a razor's edge. He jumps on top of his attackers and stomps them using his giant fists. Another one attacks him from behind with an axe, injuring him greatly, but Spawn takes care of him with a swift kick to the face. Ever since they were left powerless and trapped on Earth, angels knew that the only way they were going to survive is if they stick together in large numbers. The room is flooded with rogue angels, leaving no room for escape. Spawn gives the signal, and Cygor grabs him by the legs, then begins to swing him around with great speed. Armed with just 2 guns, Spawn is able to take out most of his attackers in just a couple of seconds, putting his skills as a trained assassin to good use. Unfortunately, using weapons inside this hideout triggered an alarm, which sealed off the entire building and also alerted the police. They have less than 1 minute to escape before the entire place is surrounded by cops. Cygor slams through one of the doors, causing a hole big enough for them to escape. Spawn knocks Tyrone unconscious and puts him on his back, while Cygor breaks one of the sealed doors, creating a hole big enough for them to escape. They head towards the nearby building and escape just seconds before dozens of police cars arrive and surround the place. Spawn takes his prisoner to one of his hideouts and ties him up in chains so he can't escape. Tyrone claims he's not afraid and that he knows where his friends and family live. This prompts Spawn to ask Jacob and Cygor to leave because he wants to talk in private. Because he kidnapped Grandma Blake, a sweet old lady who had nothing to do with this war, he's gonna make him suffer. Tyrone's dad wants his son back. He wasn't even involved with what happened in Berlin, but Spawn doesn't know that. The old man wanted to draw him out by kidnapping Grandma Blake and eventually kill him, all in hopes of doing a service to Blood and getting in his good graces. He arranges a meeting with a black market trader, one specialized in hiring assassins to do special missions. The trader already has someone in mind capable of taking out Spawn, a ninja assassin who moves with deadly silence, who shows no remorse for his actions, but it costs a lot to hire him. A few hours later, the old man is waiting patiently in his office after agreeing to hire the assassin to take out Spawn when someone unexpected visits him. It was Al Simmons himself who came to negotiate the release of his son. They agreed to leave each other's families alone, but Simmons wants something else, 50% of the old man's company. The old man refuses, saying he asks too much, so Simmons leaves, claiming that if he hurts his family, he's gonna kill his son, his entire crew, and then come after him as well. Spawn walks back to his hideout when, out of nowhere, the assassin confronts him. Spawn busts out a pair of wings that he stole from one of his vampire enemies. 8 seconds pass as each Titan sizes their opponent before the assassin makes his move and attacks him. The next day, detectives Burke and Twitch are sent to investigate the brutal murder of a 15-year-old boy. He was attacked by a pack of vampires and the poor boy didn't stand a chance. The vampires will attack again, and Spawn can't do anything about it, not without his powers. Blood and his pack of vampires are now the alpha dogs, while angels and demons can't do anything about it. Last night, Spawn was fighting the assassin sent by Tyrone's dad, but he couldn't help but think about how stupid both sides were behaving. At first, he thought the assassin was a vampire or a meta-human. But no, he's just a regular human with no special powers. They keep forgetting that even without his powers, Simmons is still a trained soldier, and he can kick their asses. No wonder Heaven's forces haven't been able to defeat the Hellspawns over the centuries. They keep sending idiots like Tyrone's dad to do the work. During the fight, the assassin is able to stab Spawn in the abdomen using his sword, then blind him using a flash grenade that simulates sun rays. Next, the assassin used 2 stun darts to incapacitate Spawn, which knocked him unconscious. A group of thugs showed up and wrapped him in chains and then threw him inside a van. What they didn't know is that Spawn had killed the assassin and took his place while placing his body inside the costume. The attacker got cocky and turned his back to Spawn, thinking he was unconscious on the ground, but he wasn't. In the present, he attacks the thugs who wanted to take his body to their boss and quickly takes them out. Simmons realizes how badly he needs his powers back, but Blood and his vampires won't idly stand by. They'll fight to keep their dominance. 2 months ago, a man named Steve was giving a toast in honor of his son's wedding, recounting how proud he is to have him as a son. Out of nowhere, his body transforms into a hideous beast, revealing the awful truth that he was, in fact, a demon. This demon was sent to Earth decades ago to gather intel, but he abandoned that mission immediately and lived a normal life as a human. That life ended the night the dead zones expanded and he was exposed for what he really was, a demon from hell. However, Steve wanted his old life back and asked for help from Caliban, a demon involved in solving other people's problems. However, the materials needed to change him back into a human were all collected by Blood and his vampire army, and there was a waiting period of 3 months before he could help him. Meanwhile, he needed to keep out of sight and abandon the idea of having his old life back. His family and friends were all afraid of him now. In the present, Burke and Twitch tell Spawn about a recent murder that happened during a poker game. Someone butchered an entire room filled with people, and only one survived, Dennis Cullinane. Dennis refuses to talk to the police and says he only wants to talk to Spawn, so the 2 detectives ask him for help. While the demon was waiting for his turn to change back into a human, his wife couldn't handle the stress and went insane. His son was even worse. After his new bride left him, he couldn't take it and took his own life. Steve attended his son's funeral and vowed to kill the one responsible for ruining his life. That person was none other than Spawn. Al visits the man who survived the poker game, asking why he wanted to speak to him. Dennis claims that someone attacked him and took his face, and vowed to do the same to his family if he doesn't lure Spawn here. Sadly, this was a trap, and the demon attacks him from behind. But he was genetically mutated using Han's DNA, becoming incredibly powerful. Everything changed 2 days ago, when Caliban provided Steve with a sample of Han's symbiote. If he injects himself with it, he will gain powers and will be able to go toe-to-toe with Spawn. However, if he takes the serum, Steven won't have enough credits to turn himself into a human anymore, but after losing his family, he doesn't care anymore. His rage was unmeasurable as he goes all out on Spawn, stabbing him in the back with the symbiote. He then tosses him across the hospital room and also kills the man who lured Spawn here. Al uses a gun to defend himself, but bullets have no effect on the enraged demon, and he continues his waves of attacks. But luckily, Spawn is able to stab him in the eye and then escape through the hospital window. Badly injured and on the run, Al calls the only person who can help him, Jacob. He wanted him to send Cygor to his rescue, but the ape was still out on a previous mission, He was just minutes away from passing out, having multiple stab wounds and damage to both of his hands. But before they could finish talking, the demon catches him from behind and attacks him once again, causing even more damage. Steve accuses Spawn of taking everything from him. His wife, his son, his entire life disappeared when the dead zones expanded, all thanks to him. But something is wrong. Out of nowhere, the symbiote separates from his body, becoming a different entity and attacking its host. The supplier who provided Caliban with a sample of Haunt's symbiote infected the sample on purpose, wanting to kill demons and angels who tried to use it. His plan worked, as the symbiote completely destroys the demon, ripping him in half. After barely surviving the attack, Spawn goes after Caliban, demanding to know who gave him a sample of Haunt's DNA. Something horrible was happening around the city where parents were being butchered in their homes and their sons are being abducted. After the events in Spawn issue 360, Spawn's powers have returned, and he is trying to solve the murders and find the missing children in his own way. Somewhere else, at the home of Terry Fitzgerald, Katie wakes from a nightmare and her dad rushes to comfort her. His son Jake has been having panic attacks as well, after hearing about the missing boys on the news, and Terry doesn't know how to make them feel better. Wanda was always better at talking to them. Special Agent William Lynch from the FBI knocks on the door, asking if they can speak in private. The man who Spawn captured earlier is a demon named Kraus, one with unique tracking abilities which allow him to trace anyone anywhere. However, after visiting the homes of all the abducted boys, he isn't able to trace anybody. It's as if they've completely disappeared from the face of the planet. Terry calls Spawn and tells him about the visit from Agent Lynch, saying he wants to meet with him. Lynch claims he needs help because what's happening now, it's happened before 25 years ago to the day. His brother and 4 other boys were abducted at night and the parents were brutally murdered, just like what's been happening this week. He thinks the agency, the FBI, is involved because all the evidence he was able to collect was tampered with and someone inside the government was messing with the files. Kraus finally has a lead and informs Spawn about it, who rushes immediately to track it down. 2 thugs were speeding away in their van when out of nowhere Spawn appears and deals with them. He finds one of the missing boys inside the van, but one of the drivers calls him an idiot and vows that the Wraith will destroy him for interfering. Somewhere else, an assassin shows up and kills one of the persons working with the 2 thugs, claiming his services are no longer required. Special Agent Lynch has a dream where he is being interrogated by the police, right after his parents were murdered and his brother kidnapped. The officer blames him for what happened, saying he's probably involved with the killers. That's why they spared his life. But luckily, this was only a nightmare. He glances over a photo of his family before the tragic event and wonders what his family would have accomplished in the 25 years since they were murdered. He goes to the office and is informed by one of his colleagues that one of the missing boys was found and is being interrogated by his colleagues. Meanwhile, Spawn visits Ichabod, an ancient vampire who's hiding in the dark corners of the sewers. He wants to know about the Wraith and threatens to turn him into blood if he doesn't cooperate. Ichabod first heard of the Wraith over 300 years ago, someone who has a fondness for child sacrifices. He seems to emerge from the shadows from time to time to kidnap and sacrifice another group of firstborn boys, but he doesn't know for what purpose exactly. He's very dangerous, and Ichabod warns him to watch his back, because the Wraith is the last person he wants to piss off. The assassin from earlier sneaks inside the police station and kills everyone in his path, trying to get to the boy. Agent Lynch tries to stop him and threatens him, but it's no use and he gets punched in the face. Out of nowhere, Spawn emerges from the shadows and teleports the young boy to safety, and then turns his attention to the assassin. The night before, he and Agent Lynch planned to use the boy as bait, saying the boy was wearing a ceremonial robe when he found him, meaning he was about to be sacrificed. They need to find the Wraith before he hurts someone else, even if that means putting the boy in danger. While fighting, Spawn scans the assassin's mind, trying to find more about the Wraith, but the man's mind was booby-trapped with some kind of psychic bomb that instantly kills him. But Spawn is determined to continue looking for him, and he won't stop until the Wraith is destroyed.